Hello, everyone. Welcome to a book-based interview where today we're going to talk to bookstore and coffee store owner Mae Tingstrom. Mae owns and operates Smitten Bookstore located in Ventura, California, as well as Red Kettle Coffee located in Summerlin, California. Starting in her dad's small restaurant to having a successful career in marketing and graphic design, Mae always dreamed of starting a business that revolved around community building. Smitten Bookstore focuses on romance and women's literature, and it opened in January 2024. If you're interested in any time in following Mae after this interview, feel free to check out her website at smittenbookstore.com, as well as checking out her social media at Smitten Bookstore on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Mae, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of
Thank
course,
you
of
so
course.
much, man. And I'll start us off with the first question, and that's just what gave you the confidence to start your own business, with the coffee shop, Red Kettle Coffee, and the bookstore, Smitten Bookstore.
I don't know if it was necessarily confidence.
Okay.
I think, well, because my dad, I grew up with him owning a small business.
Hmm.
I got to see kind of the the positives and the negatives of that.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with the community that he was building. He would make lunches for the school kids in town. He'd have his regulars. And I just really loved that connection with people. But I knew I didn't want to do like a restaurant.
Right.
Because cooking is really not my forte. But I always loved retail and books and coffee, obviously. And so I don't know. I kind of always tell people like it's kind of like when you know you want to have a kid. It's just instinctively like inside you that like that's my path. That's what my journey needs to be. And I feel like that's kind of what owning a small business was for me is knowing that is like instinctively that like this is my calling. And when I got the opportunity to open Red Kettle, I kind of thought maybe I was crazy, but it worked out. And yeah, and we've been open in Summerland for 8 years. And kind of a couple years ago, I kind of felt like Red Kettle was kind of running smoothly, didn't really need me to be there every day. So that kind of opened up time and energy for me to focus on what my next adventure would be. And I realized I did some traveling, and I realized that like literally everywhere I traveled, all I wanted to do was go to the independent bookstores. And that basically led me to be like, what if I opened my own bookstore? What would it look like? And so that's kind of the path that led me to opening Smitten.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Did you always have like a low risk aversion or just kind of that sense of, opening up a business that's like, really risky. But I know since your dad had that experience too, like what was your risk level throughout this process?
My risk. I think because I think it all kind of came down to like signing that lease and being like, okay, I think my lease for Red Kettle when I first signed it was 3 years. So I kind of looked at it as like, okay, I have 3 years to like make to see if this will work.
Right.
I was fortunate enough in Summerlin that I didn't have any competition when I first opened. There wasn't any other coffee shops. Uh, I mean, there is now, but um, I felt pretty confident that when you look at opening a business, you have to assess like what is your competition, um, what is the foot traffic, um, and then ultimately all that leads to like what is the need for your business.
Right.
And I looked at it as though like there's a huge need for this because there isn't one already. Um, the only thing that like was hard at the beginning was that the space that I took over wasn't already a coffee shop, so we had to do full construction. And that I think was the biggest risk was because I was spending money on a space that I didn't own. So it was like, I hope that I make this money back. And luckily I did, even if it took way longer to get open. I think we projected like 4 months and it ended up being close to a year. And then after the first almost to the year I was open, we went through here in Ventura County and Santa Barbara County, one of our biggest wildfires, the Thomas Fire. And then, shortly after that was the Montecito mudslide, which was literally over the hill from where Red Kettle is. So that kind of, we got through that, but it was really, really hard for all businesses, and especially for me, just not even being at a year open.
Yeah.
Um, so I was lucky enough that the community banded together, and I think, after that, I feel like the community realized that like they need to support more small businesses after that if there was any positive from that tragedy, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so we got through that.
That's awesome.
And I don't know, like the confidence just kind of comes from um, really, really hard work. Like I
Yeah.
literally worked at the coffee shop every day for probably 2.5 years, um, putting in the work, connecting with people, and then yeah. What
Awesome.
about
And I know you mentioned that with the coffee shop, like you were looking around the area to see like, competition and how the market is. And I was just curious with like Smitten Bookstore, I'd assume you go through a similar process, like checking out the area and whatnot. But especially with like books, in today's age with things like online shopping and ebooks, were you ever intimidated by that? Or how did you go, about looking and considering that as being part of your competition?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like Amazon is my biggest competitor, with Kindle and being able to get somebody a book like literally what, like the next day, 2 days,
Right.
at a lot of times a cheaper price. Um, I do feel like there is a market for people that understand the difference between a locally owned business, specifically a bookstore, um, and where their money goes. And I think that this like information is starting to get into more people's,
Mhm.
brains, is that um, when you spend locally, you support your local economy. And Amazon, is like a teeny tiny fraction that they're, feeding back into your local economy. The one thing that a local bookstore has that Amazon doesn't is in-person, um, community. Like they can't build a community like that. And so we're able to make connections for people. A lot of people have like created friendships through joining our book clubs. And so that's something that I wanted to try to bring to Ventura County, was this, I think, like, whatever, after COVID, everybody was like, hey, I want to like, I mean, I missed my opportunities to like meet people and, in person. So really the only other way a lot of people can meet is through like bars, and a lot of people don't don't want to do that, or they don't drink. Um, so this kind of idea is, yes, it's a retail store and we're selling a product, but I knew when I opened last year that I was going to go full force into like how many events can we do? How many people can we get to join book clubs and author events and workshops, and see what the like what people like want to, if people want to do that or not, like.
Yeah.
And that's gonna like really make or break the business, is the in-person events, because like you're saying, it's like almost impossible to compete against Amazon. It's just like, yeah, it's
Right, right.
like it really is impossible. As far as like someone just wanting a book and ordering a book, it's just that's just not possible. But you have to kind of capitalize on what you have that they don't.
Right, right, absolutely. Really quick before I go to the next question, I actually do remember the Thomas fire because I used to go to UC Santa Barbara, and I was
Mm.
a freshman when that fire happened, and I remember our chancellor wouldn't let us go home, which was so weird because I remember seeing like an orange hinge over the skyline, and I was like, wow, like I can't believe I stayed up so late to where the sun's coming up, and I remember my roommate being like, no, dude, like that's the fire, like we're all gonna die. And I
Oh
remember
no.
ash flying and masks were being handed
Oh.
out. And I remember all the students all collectively like, hey, can we please go home? Like, I want to go see my family. And the chancellor was like, no, we're all going to continue going to school. And I was cracking up because I think the day he left, he sent an email saying, yeah, we're all good to go. We should all go right now. Like, it's getting really bad. And I remember the traffic was so horrible. I remember
Oh yeah.
thinking like, oh, there's no way it can get worse. And then the mudslides happened, and I
Yeah.
couldn't even go back to school. So I remember that being such a very big natural disaster that just happened in the area, and I'm really happy that like from that experience the county got that idea that hey, maybe we should put more of a hands-on effort in supporting local businesses, so that at least that is a great silver lining that comes out of it. But I do remember that, and I wanted to ask because this is I think something that relates to us as book base as well. But I know you for both businesses, Red Kettle and for Smitten Bookstore, you do specialize in wanting to create a sense of community building and a focus on community. How do you go about doing that, especially when you're starting a business? Because you're starting off from a place where nobody knows you, and even when they do know you, they really don't have an obligation to stick with you. But how do you keep up your retention rate when it comes to customers to ensure that when somebody does come in, they do feel welcome? Or like what events do you host that kind of like help build that community aspect? Just because it's just curious, it's just a curiosity thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've completely figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But when you create an event, it's kind of like I try to collaborate with other people in the community to host the events. And normally that person will also have like their own community. So, maybe they have quite a bit of followers, or maybe they're well known for whatever skill they're bringing to, like, let's say a workshop or something. Um, so that always helps when you connect with somebody else that can also kind of spread the word about your event. I have hired like book influencers, and paid them to help spread the word about events. And, if they have a lot of followers, then a lot more people will see what you're doing. So I feel like that's an important investment when someone can also help you advertise. And then we've taken advantage of like local event websites. So if we've created an event, we will share it on those websites as well. Um, and then just in store as well, like we have our bulletin board with all of our event information. We have like a little space at the register when we're in conversation with customers throughout the store or when they're paying. We let them know, like, hey, if you're not already following us, you should give us a follow. We have events every weekend. And then we're able to kind of have that conversation with them in person about what we have coming up. Staying up to date on our socials. We almost post daily, if not every other day, posting to our stories every day. And we do an email newsletter. In store, we do a Smitten Kitten Club where it's a point reward system. Every dollar you spend, you get a point, and then when you hit 100, you get free money to spend in store. And when we collect that customer's information, we do ask if they'd like to join our newsletter. And I feel like almost like maybe 8 out of 10 times people say yes. And so we're able to build that email list so more people get their eyes on our events. Because really, that's what it boils down to is you just need as many people to see what you're doing,
Right.
uh, so that they know if they if they can come to our events. And I think that's what we kind of struggled with when we first opened last year was that we didn't have that those eyeballs on our on what we were doing. And it can be really discouraging. I do feel like it's one of the most stressful parts of my job is that you put all of this work in, especially when you're collaborating with somebody else, um, to put this event on, and you're not getting ticket sales. And you're just like, I'm throwing this amazing thing with this person. Like, why isn't anybody signing up? And it really boils down to that nobody's seeing what you're doing. And so we've been really just adamant about just keep going, like keep posting, keep telling people about all these things that we're doing. And we've been able to, get over 5,000 followers in a year. And I feel like that's pretty great. Even if we're not even shipping right now, we're literally only selling online for people to pick up. That's part of like our next goal is to be able to ship. But that's I feel like that's pretty good for not shipping.
No,
uh,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, the whole game plan when it comes to like any business, but especially for a bookstore, I think it's all about perseverance. I think
yeah.
even when like you host an event, unfortunately, because there's no eyes on it, or maybe it's just really small in the beginning, and not a lot of people come. I think a lot of people could be discouraged because the for them the attendance rate in their head is the same thing as like the quality of the experience. But I think sometimes I've always, especially when you're starting something new. I remember for book base, it was always exciting when that one person that you would assume would be a fan of it comes to you and says like, "Hey, that was really exciting." And even though it's one person instead of like 100 or something, that one person enjoying it kind of gives you that closure that help you feel like, okay, well, this is a good idea that's grounded in something. Maybe I should keep on going. And I honestly did see that the Santa Barbara Reads event where I met you, it was so inclusive, where I saw a lot of people just willing to talk about romance, which I think, especially me growing up and stuff, I feel like sometimes it could be a little bit more taboo to talk about whether you'd want to be with a vampire or a werewolf. But like with you guys, it was just so cool because it was just so open, and I saw people, drinking wine and, enjoying good food and talking about literature. And I just thought that was really special. So I think you're doing a great job already. And the 5,000 followers is definitely a great, it's just great evidence of that. Like, you guys are really doing something great, and I know you guys are just going to get bigger and bigger. And leading to our next question, I also wanted to ask this because Elisa brought up how opening a bookstore in today's times could be kind of hard because of Amazon and everything with online ebooks and everything. But I think there's another element to it as well, where you choose to specialize in romance and women's literature rather than opening a general bookstore. And I just wanted to also ask, what was your inspiration or your reasoning behind that? Because I'm sure that there was something that you either really enjoyed or really hit home when it does come to these topics.
Yeah, I think initially, I did think about opening a all genre bookstore. Um, but for me, I honestly felt like that was super intimidating. And I also felt like um, I wanted to stand behind what I was selling. And if I personally didn't read certain genres, I don't know how confident I would be in selling that genre. So it really boiled down to like what were my favorite genres.
Right.
And romance is like my number one favorite. I do read in like general fiction as well, but I did notice that I lean towards female writers. Um, And then I personally really love like tarot and astrology and like self-care books. So when I looked at like what I personally was interested in, um, all of a sudden I felt more confident in what the store would look like and what it would sell because I personally can get behind the products that I'm selling. And from there, did a bunch of research and found like the Ripped Bodice in LA and Meet Cute in San Diego. And at first, I was super intimidated because I was like, these people, they're killing it. I think I had read like right when I had this idea that Ripped Bodice was going to open up a second location in Brooklyn. And so at first I was like, oh, well, this idea's already been done. You know, and they're doing so great at it. I don't know if I'd be able to do that, do the same thing. And then I thought about like what else I could do that wasn't just romance. And then I thought about what I really love, and I really love like women's literature. I really love female authors. And so then I thought, well, what if the store that was their what was like that was the focus of the store was celebrating women and non-binary authors specifically. And so that's kind of like how the whole idea came about. And I knew the location was going to be important as well. I just got super lucky. Like, I had been looking for years at real estate. I always just like to look. So I knew it would be really tough to find a space that would make sense. As soon as I kind of locked down the idea and could like visualize what I wanted to do, the space that I'm currently in, like literally just like got posted. Um, so it was a really quick turnaround. Like I literally had the idea, turned around, went and looked at the space. Other people were interested in it. I was basically going out of the country for a month, like 2 weeks later. And I was like, okay, it's now or never. Like maybe this is the universe saying like, you know, get on it or it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I signed a lease like I think like within a week or so after seeing it, after literally having this idea. And then I left the country and then I came back and I was just like full force, got to get this space open. I had 2 months and it went a little over, took me 2.5 months. But I was pretty happy with, you know, getting it open that fast. And I know I'm on a Facebook bookseller group. It's really great if anybody's out there interested in opening a bookstore. It's a really great community. There's a lot of really great information on there from other booksellers or people interested in opening a bookstore. And I knew from being in that group before I even thought of, what I was going to open. I knew that people really struggled with a location. That was like one of the biggest hurdles for people is that, um, rent prices and finding a space that made sense, that had parking, that had some foot traffic, um, is really, really difficult. So I felt pretty fortunate that I was able to get the space that I have right now. Did I answer the question? I don't know.
No, no,
I went
you
on.
did. No, no, no. You 100% did. You 100% did.
Oh, good. I was
No,
like, where am I going? I don't
yeah.
know.
No, you answered and you gave us so much more. And I think it's all great because I think it's great to be in the mindset of somebody that starts a business and specializes in something because they just care about it that much. I think it could be really intimidating for a lot of people in the beginning because I think there's a lot of passions and a lot of motivations for people out there where they have to choose between generalizing into something that might attract more people versus specializing that might give a better experience but might be a little bit more of a niche for other people. And I think the fact that you choose to specialize in romance and women's fiction, I mean, not women's fiction, sorry, women's literature, because you just care about it, I think speaks a lot to not only the community you're building, but I think it also shows how much you care about the genres that you're reading. Because I think nothing's more awkward than you picking up a book, someone goes to you like, "Hey May, love your bookstore. What is this book about? Like, can you vouch for it? Do you like it?" And you just go, "I don't, what book is that? I don't know." And then that person's like,
Never seen
"Okay,
this before.
yeah, exactly." And they go, "Okay, I'm just never coming back here again because I don't like the bookstore owner doesn't even know what I'm talking about." But in your case, I could totally see somebody picking up a romance book, and even if you don't know the book, you may know the author or you may know the genre enough to where you can probably look at it and kind of be like, "Hey, you know what? I'm not probably the most well versed in this book, but I can vouch for it. I've heard a lot about this. You know, I'm in a community with readers, and my friends tell me this is a good book." And I think that also pushes towards creating an inclusive environment and creating overall a better experience. And that also goes back to what Elise was talking about with the whole confidence thing, where, you know, I know in the beginning you're like, I don't know about the confidence thing, but I think you did actually bring up the confidence thing without you realizing it, where it did start off with you just caring about something enough to where you wanted to specialize in it. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, to kind of comment on what you're saying is when we're talking about like, your competition, obviously, Amazon we mentioned, but we also have a very big Barnes and Nobles just down the road from us. And I do feel like that part of being able to personally talk about a book, um, a lot of the Barnes and Nobles staff, I mean, I freaking love Barnes and Nobles, don't get me wrong. But they're not able to, their staff isn't always all versed in romance or women's literature. So that also like helps. I think that's what is specifically unique about having a specific genre store is that that's what you're going in for is that experience to be able to have these conversations with the staff. And a lot of times the customers, they just want to tell you what they've read.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just giving them space to be able to talk about their reading habits and what they've loved and what they've hated. And you're a lot of times I'll just listen. Like it's not like I have to really sell. Like
Right.
I'm literally just there. And of course I love it because I love talking about books. Um, and that's kind of what we bring to the book community is being able to be that sounding board for people. And that's kind of like what our strategy, our strong part is, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that, you're not only just like a bookstore or just kind of this retailer that's just trying to sell stores. Like you even just mentioned how it's more about like the community and just people coming in, just talking, and then your passion for romance really shows because that's kind of what the bookstore is focused on with
Mhm.
women's literature. So I was curious that I know on your website, you have a for authors and a for retail partnership section. So how do you choose who you partner with, and how do you take into consideration like really the community aspect of who gets to come into this store, and what's that filtering process like?
So for the author submissions, this last year and probably for most of this year, we're mostly focused on local indie authors because the author submissions are independent, like indie authors. The bigger named authors, I personally have to like try to get. They're not
Okay.
they're not coming to me. I
Not
mean,
yet.
we have
Not
had
yet.
we actually I take that back. We actually have had a handful of bigger and I say bigger meaning just like more book sales.
Right.
Um uh we have been reached out from a handful of bigger authors, but the author submission page is mostly for indie authors to be able to be like, "Hey, hello, I've written a book," because
That's cool.
as a bookseller, obviously, the publishers are pushing the book, the bigger selling books.
Right.
Those are like on a bookseller's radar more. Um, And so basically the author pages for the indie authors to be able to submit. And then we've been really focused on if we bring in an author in person, they should be relatively local. Um, that's just what we've been focusing on. That obviously, can change as we move forward. But because we've been so focused on in-store events, that's kind of what I've been doing is responding and being like, hey, can you come in and do a book signing? And sometimes we will buy the books outright and have some on hand for people. Um, the the benefit of being an indie author is that they can sell their books to us.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we'll do it on like a consignment base where when they come in, we'll sell them for them, and then we get like a tiny percentage from those sales. But really, it's more focused on giving that author an opportunity for the community to know about their books. I don't really look at it as a big moneymaker. Um, it's mostly because I want to support the arts. That's super important to me, and I want to support these people's art. Like writing a book is art, and then hope that, I guess, like, in a way, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if one day one of these authors just really makes it big, and I hope they do, but then
Yeah.
I can look at it and be like, I was like, at the
Yeah,
beginning
you
of
shine the
that
spotlight.
journey.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so cool. So that's kind of what the author portion is. And of course, I look at other authors that aren't local as well. We just don't right now bring those books in quite yet. I feel like on my end of things, I need to make sure that I have a bigger customer base to do that. Um, and then as far as like the retail portion of it, um, again, it's kind of similar. Like I've been focusing on more locally made retail, and I've been bringing more of that in to support the local economy. I haven't brought in as many, submissions from that. And then as far as like the retail portion, just in store, I kind of focus on a lot of stickers. My gosh, we sell so many stickers. And I kind of just look at it as like, again, what would I buy?
Right.
Because I am my own customer, and then my friends are my customers. And then now that we have regulars at Smitten, so I'm able to be like, I'm looking at a product that I want to bring in, and I'm able to ask my customers like, what do you think about this? This is kind of cool, right? Um, so being transparent is great.
Yeah.
Being and then I'm there. I'm personally there in the store, so I'm able to do all of that.
Yeah,
Um,
and how do you go about like marketing too, in the sense where it's like once you, let's say there's like an indie author that, they're happy that you're spotlighting them and they have an opportunity to come to your store and be highlighted. So what's the process for you to kind of market and, spread even more awareness? And I like what you said where you're kind of asking also like customers like, what do you think about this book? And in a sense that I was just thinking like that's also kind of like information, like maybe subconscious information, like, oh, these people like this. Like, so when you market, I would just imagine it feels less unnatural because you know kind of what the community wants. So you marketing is more just like letting people know, like, this is something that you're gonna like. But how do you balance like a healthy amount of marketing, and like does it ever feel, I don't know if it's like you, I'm assuming you don't want to be like too pushy or anything like that, especially. And I wonder what's the expectation for like an indie author in terms of marketing for them. Like, how much do you highlight them before the event, or how does that work at Smitten?
right now we will make a graphic for them for our socials and our website. We try to get that posted at least 3 weeks out from their book signing.
Okay.
And then kind of like we kind of just, we do it kind of like any other event. We will, post to our stories. We'll print out that graphic for in store for our events board and then by our register. So we do kind of the same ideas like, hey, we're having a local author here on Saturday. They wrote such and such book. Specifically, if someone's already looking at a book that is a similar genre of the author that's going to be with us, I like jump on the opportunity to be like, hey, I see you're interested in this fantasy book. Well, there is also this amazing local author that's going to be here that also wrote a fantasy book. A lot of times, the authors will also have their own bookmarks with QR codes on them. And that's another way that we can support them is when someone buys, like, say it's a fantasy indie author and they buy someone else's fantasy book. We have the bookmarks at the register, and I'll slip one in the book and be like, hey, um, we have a local author that also wrote a fantasy, and I'm putting their bookmark in your book in case you're ever interested in checking out their book. Um, and that doesn't necessarily mean that sale is going to come to us. That person could see that bookmark and buy it directly from the author. But like we've like the word community has been said a million times, but I do feel like it's important to support that. And maybe that day or maybe that month it doesn't bring, dollar bills to us, but in the long run, I feel like it will pay off in some way, shape, or form. Not everything can be equated like by the money in your bank account.
Right.
Sometimes you have to do it. You just have to do it. I don't know. There's just like there's no questioning about it. You just want to and you do it. But I think, I don't know. I never feel like I think it's because I'm talking to people that want the information, so I never
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
feel like I'm like salesperson.
Right.
Um, I I generally like talking about books, and I feel like the people that walk in also want to talk about books. So I never really feel like annoying. I mean, I feel vibes like from working in a coffee shop for so long. Like you get the vibes. Like
Yeah.
someone walks in and they're like two drip coffees. Like you're not gonna about to be like, "How's your day going?" Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
pretty good. Da, 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 da.
Right.
Like you feel the vibes, and you're like, okay, this person just wants what they came in for. They do not want the song and dance. And so I make it a point in Smitten to at least check in with people, just be like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And they're usually like, "Good." And I'm like, and I get the vibes, like whether they need me or not. And then I just let them know I'm there for them. Like I'm like, hey guys, holler if you need me, and I'll go back to whatever project I'm working on. Um, because I'm not trying to be. I think that's also like, I'll be shopping in a store and somebody comes over and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to I'm just trying to shop, and I don't want to. There's certain times where you want help and sometimes you don't. So I try to read the vibes in the room and try not to be like, and also like I have other things to do, so I'm also trying not to like take up my own time and take up their time if they don't need it.
Right.
um so yeah, hopefully
Yeah. No, that
that
makes
works
sense.
out. Like I don't know, some people can be like, she's too much, but I don't know.
No, no, that makes sense. Like feeling out the vibe, that really makes sense. You can tell when a person like wants your attention or kind of is like, you know, just wants to keep to themselves. So that's yeah, that makes
I
sense.
feel
But
like I feel like I would force it. I feel like I'd be such a bad bookstore owner. I feel like, oh, you don't want to talk? Like, how are you then? Like, hey, what's up? You're having a bad day? Like, maybe this book would help. I feel like I don't want to invade their space, but I feel like if
No,
somebody walked in and was like,
no,
hey, I'm here for 2 drip coffees, I'd be like, how about 3? You ever thought about that? I don't know. uh,
It's like a three type of day.
right, this is a oh my gosh, no, no, man, you're actually making me want to open a bookstore right now. Like, this is so exciting. And it's so funny because I still have your bookmark that I got from your event, and I
Oh,
think I've shown that to more people because it's in my car. Because I always, like, when Elias first got into my car after the event, I was like, "You need to look at this," and he was like, "Is this a bookstore bookmark?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is Smitten Bookstore. We're gonna go visit her in Ventura. This is so awesome." I talked to her, and it's so funny because I keep it still not on my dashboard, but like near the gear shift. And
That's
so many
awesome.
people that get into the car, they'll look at the pink bookmark and like, "You have a pink bookmark?" I'm like, "Yeah, what about it?" Like, it's a bookstore bookmark. And it's so funny because it attracts so many people's attention. And it's so cool when they look at the bookmark and they already understand exactly what it is. And the name does it as well, but like they look at it and go, "Oh, is this like about romance or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a romance bookstore that specializes in romance and women's literature." And so many people have actually told me like, "Oh, that's really cool," or, "Oh, wow, like, I wonder if there's other bookstores like that around me or something." So I think that what you were saying earlier, I think there is a demand for these smaller bookstores where it's not Amazon. It's not about getting the book ASAP. It's about the community. It's about, getting something more than just something you get anywhere else. Because I think now the problem isn't that people aren't getting the books. The problem now is that people aren't getting that, the experience that comes with it that sometimes makes them feel special. And I've definitely noticed that people that feel like they can connect around books, they open up a lot more. And especially when it comes to like a bookstore, if I went to a Barnes and Noble, which is not even a specialized store, but if an employee from Barnes and Noble came up to me and said, "Hey, I've seen you a couple times. Like, I think you're kind of looking for these types of books. Like, if you don't mind, like, I also love these books. Here's a recommendation." Not only would that make me feel heard and seen, it would make my day, but I think it would create so many more incentive for me to be like, "Oh, well, if I'm going to go look for another book, why don't I just go back to that store? Because I feel like there's people that are more catered to what I'm looking for." And I think that's really great. Like, I don't know. I just think it's so cool. Like, it's just such a cool thing that you're talking about. But
yeah.
uh,
Thank
And
you.
and and I was just curious to know too, like what is the future of Smitten Bookstore, and how do you go about planning your planning process when it comes to projects like this?
Mm. Um, I thrive on what's next, almost to my own detriment. Like at my grand opening at Smitten, I remember in the middle of the party being like, "Okay, so tomorrow, such and such, such and such," and then the person I was talking to was like, "You're literally in the middle of your grand opening. Like, how about we enjoy what's happening right now?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "But but the next thing." So I do feel like I'm always like, what's next, what's next? And for us, I really feel strongly about building our own brand of products, retail products, and this isn't like a new concept. Like a lot of bookstores have their own branded products, like their own T-shirts and their own totes, which we do have our own like not the paper bookmarks, but we have our own like other bookmarks, and we have our own T-shirt, we have our own stickers, um, but like taking that the next step, because if we're looking at starting to want to ship online, like we were talking about before, like what would somebody why would somebody purchase their book through Smitten's website when they can go to Amazon and get the same book shipped to them? And I want to look at it as just like we do in store, like what would make buying a book from us special?
Mhm.
And I want to be able to be like, just for an example, I don't know, we haven't decided yet, but like if you were to buy this book, like would you get like a special bookmark from us? Like, would you get like a special sticker from us? Like, what would that look like? What would the packaging look like? Would it be a pink box? Like, what would make this stand out? So that's like step number one. And you mentioned in my intro that I was a graphic designer. So of course I have like a million ideas of like what these things would look like aesthetically.
Mm-hmm.
I also have in through the coffee shop, because at the coffee shop we sell a lot of local art as well, and we feature a local artist as a pop-up for 2 months, 2 months at a time, um, all throughout the year. So through that and through Smitten, I have made a lot of connections with local artists. So a big part of that is how does that, how would we collaborate with all of these really talented local artists to help us create really unique like products for Smitten? Um, and I'm gonna take advantage of that because it would bring something unique and special, and it would also support our local artists. And we do that kind of already at Red Kettle. Like, I work with local artists to do all of the stickers and T-shirts. They're also all locally printed as well, the T-shirts. So, yeah, taking those ideas and applying them to Smitten as well. And being able to put these products on the website is kind of it's going to be a huge project, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, obviously, shipping is like, it's just a huge, it's like a whole nother business to ship.
Yeah.
So that's like a huge undertaking that I think in my mind this last year, I just kept putting it off to the beginning of this year, and now we're at the beginning of this year, and I'm like, okay,
You're like next year.
no,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Right.
So first project is to create our unique products, um, and then from there start putting them on the website and being able to start shipping is two pretty big projects that I'm hopefully get going.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the first part of it. And then obviously just keep going with all our different events. We had our first book swap of the year this last Sunday, and it was the biggest attended book swap we've ever had. It was a little crazy. I was not expecting that many people. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay, people, this is gonna be a thing. So I need to be prepared. Um, so yeah, continuing all of our community events, trying to connect with more authors. January is a pretty quiet month. We do have the Onyx Storm release party. That's huge. We sold out within the tickets for that within like a couple of days. So that's going to be huge. Doing more book release parties. I feel like from this last year, people really, really love the idea of coming and partying.
Yeah.
So focusing more on interactive events with our community. They're more expensive to do because I want it to. I want to make it. I want to make it fun. I want to do a themed charcuterie board. I want to do a themed cocktail slash mocktail. I want it to be something that somebody wants to take a photo of and Instagram it, or share it, or have such a great experience that they're telling all their friends the next event that Smitten's doing, we're going. Um, I don't want to half-ass it and just buy some pre-made cupcakes from Vons and put them out. Like, that's kind of like what maybe Barnes and Nobles would do. So I, yeah, that's kind of the looking forward to things.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just me brainstorming, but I think it'd be cool if, yeah, no, see, now you got me cooking right now. I think it'd be really cool because since you're working with indie authors, I think it might be harder with like more well-known or like authors make more sales because of book rights. I don't know how that works with book publishing companies, but for indie authors who are willing to like really collaborate with you, I think it'd be really cool if you created like an author spotlight package where it's like if you buy it online, it comes in the pretty box, but it also comes with like stickers, maybe even like if the author's willing, like a letter or like just a note, be like, hey, thank you for buying copy, blah blah blah. Like this is a great story, and since you're collaborating with artists, like I think like a lot of concept art would be really cool. And this is just me as a comic book graphic novel nerd, but even when it comes to like video games and like cinema and stuff, I've recently been seeing a really big trend in, especially people that are really big fans of the culture, they will put in more of an effort or put in more money to get the small things, which, like, you know, for some people, oh, it's just concept art, like who cares, but for people that are really big fans of the book or even big fans of the author over time, I think for a fact those people will be like, I need to get this concept art. I want to hang it on my wall. I think it'd be cool. Or this sticker would be really cool on my hydro flask. So I think there is so much room for creating more of an immersive experience, even though it's not in person and you are shipping a product. I don't think you're gonna sacrifice your image as somebody that really focuses on community building or wanting to promote a different aspect of literature versus like what Amazon's going for, because I think it's the effort that really counts. And now that I think the hard part is already done where you have the connections. I think it'd be cool. Now it's like, now you're just brainstorming what really works and you have experience in graphic design and marketing. I don't know. I think you're going to create something awesome. Like, I'm so excited. Like, I think it's going to be great. But as we're approaching our last question, so this kind of has to do with book base, but I love asking people that are in the book community to really talk about their experience with the social aspect of reading. And I just wanted to ask, like, you as a reader growing up, whether you were young or you now, are you a part of any book clubs, or have you ever been in a book club or been in a social gathering for books, or what is that looking like for you? Where have you ever had a friend where you like talk, hey, I can't believe this book is so cool or something? Because I think it's really important to really highlight, you know, the fact that socializing around books, it's not as boring as it may seem. Like, it could be exciting. We've talked about it the whole time this interview, but you as a reader, I think would be something that'd be really cool to ask about as well.
Yeah, well, I think a large part of moving forward with the idea of Smitten was because I really wanted to join a book club.
Mm,
And most book clubs are comprised of a friend group, right? And I was like, I don't know if any of my friends have the time. There weren't as big of readers as I was. So I looked to see if there was any local book clubs that I could join, and I really struggled. Like the one that I found that's really great, they had like a waiting list. So I think that's like a large part of what drove me to want to do a bookstore, was that like if I'm struggling to join a book club, um, maybe other people are as well. And especially in like the 20s, 30s, 40s aged group. Libraries have book clubs, but I don't live near a library that does have a book club, so it would be like joining a gym and having to drive. Like,
right.
um, so you're just not going to be as inclined to like make that effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I did join, like, I'm on Goodreads, and I, connect a lot of people with people on that, like digitally. I did join at one point, like Amazon does have book clubs, but I never really felt like there was any like community in that. Like it was just like, hey, our book club's reading this book this month, and because
Right.
you pick like your genres. So that didn't really like satisfy that itch of like wanting to like talk to people about these books. Um, so I feel like from what I know of what you guys are doing, this would be, your idea is great, because I struggled with finding a book club to join. And I do feel like, you know, what you guys are doing would really work for people that don't have the friends in person. Um, like, I mean, one of my best friends is in Finland right now. Like if we wanted to do a book club together with friends throughout the country or the world, it would be literally impossible unless we all
Right.
zoomed, and like I think that that's just really hard sometimes to get everybody on, the same time zone at the same, same place, same time.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started my own book club, before Smitten, I was like, I'm just gonna give it a go. I opened up the coffee shop after hours, invited a bunch of people, see who would attend, and at first it was like I had like 8 people, and I was like, yay, that's great. But as the months went on, more and more people dropped off because life,
Mm.
because it was hard to like meet at a specific time at a specific place. Um, so yeah, I feel like I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry, I lost my
No,
train.
no.
That
Thank
makes
you
sense.
so much for the kind words, and we're gonna have to
Yeah.
edit the part where you said you have a Goodreads account, but that's okay. Like we'll take care of that. No,
That's
I'm just,
fine.
I'm, no, no, I'm just joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I also
But
have Storygraph too.
oh, dear,
I
that's
I
another.
have I have Letterbox as well. Like I literally I am a I is creative and like graphic designy that I am. I love a spreadsheet. I love data.
Yeah.
I love to record anything that I'm doing. Like I make like literally a checklist every day of things. So I love as much data as possible.
No, absolutely. No, I think no, I definitely appreciate. First of all, thank you for the kind words and thank you for sharing your story because that's how it was with me as well. I had the opposite. I had friends that hated reading, so I'm kind of like, yeah, I hate reading too. Like you guys don't like reading, me neither. And I think I had that, that opinion ever since high school because high school made reading horrible, and I think it's such a beautiful thing, but when it's like shoved down your throat with books that you don't want to read, you kind of come out of it thinking like, okay, well, if that's what reading is like, I don't want it. It's like taking medicine. And I think it was until I met Elias and Jalen, our co-founders, that really allowed me to open up and kind of be willing to read and even be vulnerable while reading, like opening up like, hey, this chapter kind of made me sad, guys. Like I don't know how to feel about this, but I don't want to see that ever again. And it's a really cool experience when you're able to talk to another person about something that you're digesting because I think it's normal for people to talk about movies all the time. Like, hey, did you see that movie? Oh yeah, that's great. Or hey, did you listen to that album? But for book clubs, it could feel a little bit isolating when you don't really have, first of all, like, well, for people that have friends that are far away, or even like if people are more isolated and don't really have, a lot of social connections, they might feel like they have to do things by themselves, and that's totally not the case. And that's really what we're trying to solve with book base, where we're trying to give people that wouldn't have an option otherwise to to create a book club and be able to socialize with people. But no, yeah, no, we're
Great.
yeah.
Great idea. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, yeah, to be able to create a community for people is just so important. And that's all like I think us as humans want is that connection, and to not feel like you're the only one with your thoughts and feelings. And if we can create more and more of these spaces for people, I think as a civilization, it's only for the best. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. But yeah, it's just something that we've always liked to do, which is talk to other, the community with authors or, bookstore owners. So this is a great opportunity for us to just speak to you and get your perspective too, because it's also cool talking to our friends and family about reading. And then we've gotten the opportunity to talk to some authors, but this has been a great opportunity to talk to someone even on the other side too as a bookstore owner. So thank you so much, May, for coming and joining us on Bookbase.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun to talk to you guys.
Thank you,
All
thank you.
right. And then we'll call it there.